What was it that you felt drew you, especially with the other identities that you carry? You know, like a man who's been bullied as a young man, and maybe has been as an adult. A man who holds these values of a higher being leading our lives, a Christian, using that terminology. I think I was just curious, where, how do you reconcile what you experience and what on the outside we experience from him and how he treats people, how he and those. And I don't need you to defend him. I'm more saying like you saying, yeah, I'm okay with those. I'm okay with how he talks to people and belittles people and degrades people. I think I was just curious as to how you pull all that together as you maybe it's in the book. Maybe it's in the book as you talk about what are those things that make you connected to him. But I'll be curious and maybe.
Well, I don't believe he belittles people.
Okay.
But perception is reality, right?
Yeah, I agree. So that's a good point. So in the way you see him, he doesn't belittle people. So okay. So just in terms of like when you use the WWJD, what would Jesus do? You don't hold him to any expectations of, even though he may claim that he is of a certain belief, regardless about that, but like you don't feel that that is important, or do you? Is there some way that you've reconciled the idea that, oh, you know what, it doesn't matter that he let's remove the word belittle because that was my word, but I would say kindness. He doesn't treat people with kindness.
I don't know any politician that treats people with kindness at all.
I volunteered for a woman who ran for office in New Hampshire. I had to go to some of the political events. I've never met so many fake people. It was not anything that I had any interest in ever doing. So again, I think that was sort of the mask, right? Everybody that went to these things was putting on a mask. They were pretending to like you to get what they want. And my experience, people only want to be friends with you as long as there's some benefit, usually financial. And once that benefit goes away, so does the friendship. I've found very, very few people that want to be friends without some catch.
That's a very interesting thought. I mean, I think, do you feel that people are attracted to that energy from Trump because he, in that context of like not being fake, he says directly what he feels about you. You're not wondering what he feels about. You know, interesting.
He's charismatic. People love to hear him speak.
Yeah.
And he says what's on his mind. There's a old saying in Christianity called itchy ears. And that means most people want to hear how great you are, how wonderful it is to be in your among you. And they don't want to hear brutal honesty. Because brutal honesty sometimes hurts. But how am I helping somebody if I'm sugarcoating reality? It doesn't help anybody, because that's what flattery is.
Yeah. So then if you, I mean, I think our minds are powerful beings, right? Have you seen the movie Inside Out? Have you seen either part 1 or part 2, the movie Inside Out?
I haven't seen it.
Are you a movie watcher?
I'm not.
You're not a movie watcher. Okay. The premise is that our minds that they call it a headquarters, right? So there's these characters. The first 5 characters were joy, anger, fear, disgust, and sadness. Those are the first 5 characters. And so they call this idea of inside out is like, what if the inside of your brain, we could see it like on the outside, we could see what was happening in our minds as we were going through stuff, right? And I wonder, like, this idea of like speaking what's on your mind, like it's like, this thing is making me one of these emotions is popping up: disgust, anger, fear, whatever. And I'm going to speak out about it with no filter whatsoever, right? With no filter of like, are these words going to hurt people? Are these words going to harm people? Are they going to make people feel a certain way? And I think that's where my question is, yeah, okay, maybe you are speaking on what's on your mind, but that's what you normally do when you have no frontal lobes, right? When you're like, I have no frontal lobes of controlling what's going to come out of this mouth, so it just goes straight from here to the mouth, as opposed to like, that sentence, that phrase, that attack, that comment, it maybe not be helpful here. It may not be kind here. It may not be respectful here, right? Even though it's on what's on my mind, right? Like in traffic, right? Like, what am I gonna say? Am I gonna like channel a higher being of myself in traffic, or am I gonna just be like beep 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 beep? What happens between the time I think it to the time it pops out of my mouth? And maybe if I'm in my own car with my windows rolled up, I may say more than I would if my windows were down and I thought the people could hear me. I wonder those things. So like as a man who, when you talk about being bullied in high school and then in college, for yourself, if you're willing to share more about that, was it physical bullying? Was it emotional? Was it verbal? Like that's a curiosity I have about, as you mentioned, some of the bullying you experienced.
Emotional bullying, physical bullying, because I was a heavy guy, was overweight for most of my life.
I only see your shoulders now, so I don't know. Are you? Would you say you're not overweight now? Like,
No,
okay,
I'm not overweight anymore.
yeah. So what changed? What shifted for you that, or in your life? What was the shift from that? Either that state of being, if those are the things that you felt you bullied about, what caused the shift?
Eating better. I used to go out to eat 5 times a week,
Mm.
exercising more, writing down what I eat, keeping a food journal, and just feeling better about myself and not allowing other people's opinion of me matter. It doesn't matter. I will never live up to other people's expectations. I love myself and I know that God loves me, and that's all that matters. I don't need other people's flattery or affirmations.
Do you feel like that is, and maybe I don't know, do you speak to other Trump supporters, or do you kind of isolate yourself? Do you like just keep that thing to yourself, or do you talk about this often? Do you talk about your support often to people?
I talk about my support all day, every day.
Yeah,
And I have friends that are on both sides.
yeah,
And I think that's important. I think that I love a healthy debate as long as it's done in a calm, rational manner.
yeah.
I'm not going to have a conversation with somebody who's going to scream. But I certainly think the amount of violence that's going on in this country, especially the anti-Israel movement, is abysmal. 176 grave sites were ripped out in New York City, Jewish. But this is nothing new. The Jewish people have always been persecuted. And I feel that I've been persecuted for most of my life as well.
And so the feeling of what things that are values to you, of what things you support, are connected to kind of the things that you've experienced also growing up. Is that true?
Yes.
Fair to say? So, and maybe just like as we think about, like, as we connect to these masks, so we're talking about this idea of where do we get to be more our full self. And as you do men's work and you probably experience men who come for the first time, like if you've never trusted men, like I've been on a men's team for 14 years, so I'll speak to that context. Like I've met men who've come and they're like, "What is going on here?" Men are talking about feelings. They're hugging each other. What's going on here, right? Like if they have never been in a space like that, it can seem odd, strange, weird per se.
Right.
But maybe for some people, they've been looking for it they've been like, where has this been my whole life, right? And I think you can imagine the different places wherever those beings have come from in their life, if their belief is that men should not talk about their feelings, should keep everything to themselves, bottle everything up, repress all their feelings, then they may operate from that context, right?
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side, if they have been taught or believe that, no, this is healthy, normal, this is what should be happening on a regular basis, then they would come to that space and feel like a breath of fresh air, like, wow, right? And they may still feel some uncomfortable because they may feel Can I trust them? Can I trust them in that space? So for you, as who talks about these topics, who you probably say you meet people all the time who may not agree, or there's contentiousness all the time about your book and your title. As you, when people bring up the context of correlating kindness and love with also the things that you may have heard people push back on who you support, how do you, in a gentle, even kind way, respond to that? Because I imagine that there's a lot in there about that, about how do you say that you support this person who is often, from the outside appearance to others who may not believe how you believe, see it as not kind and not loving, not channeling a sense of love and care.
Thank you for sharing your opinion. That's what I would say.
Oh, I see. Got it. Got it.
Everybody has their own truth.
And there's only one truth, and that's Jesus Christ.
But your truth is the context of the truth. I see what you're saying. That's okay. So if the context of the truth is that the word that was passed down to us to live by, you just in the way you operate with people who may disagree or who read the topic of your book and be like, what the heck, or whatever they say may say to you. You imagine you had lots of conversations about it. When you say thank you for your opinion, do you feel like there's just no need to try and justify anything like that? It's just, you just kind of go with that context? Like,
Correct.
oh, I see. How about your friends? Because you say you have friends who, so when you, maybe you have more conversation with your friends than with random people in the, in a bookstore or somewhere where you may be promoting your book. What about you and your friends? Do you all have talks about that? Do you go past that? Thank you for your opinion, or do you have a?
We focus on things that we agree on rather than things
Uh,
that we don't agree on.
right on, right on. Thank you.